my friend. Tonight we drift back to the middle of the 14th century. I'm going to airdrop you into the heart of medieval Europe, to watch with your own eyes how the Black Death began its terrible sweep. I should be honest with you, your odds aren't great. Statistically, this story will barely get going before you're out of it entirely, but that is what makes it gripping, isn't it? So, before you settle in, take a breath, loosen your shoulders, and if you truly enjoy journeys like this, let your quiet support be the small lantern that keeps us company. Tell me where you're listening from, and what time it is for you now. Then dim the lights, hear the distant bell, and step into tonight's tale. You live in Europe in the year 1347, in a town neither large nor small. Life is not good, not bad, simply sturdy. Your world is built from simple, durable things, the gummy pull of mud lanes underfoot, the air seasoned with wood smoke, hearth fire, and a blunt undertone of manure, the church bell tolling on the hour, the Lord's face appearing, punctual as winter when taxes are collected. Life moves like a slow brown river, murky, yes, but flowing all the same. Today is decent. You have a few coins, warm from your palm. You intend to treat yourself at the market. The square is alive. The blacksmith's hammer rings, peddlers cry their wares. A drunk stumbles through a half song. You slip through the crowd and overhear a strange conversation. A merchant, just back from the port, lowers his voice to companions. His eyes hold the glitter of someone who has seen something and wishes he hadn't. News from Genoese ships, he says, far in the east, in lands you know only from travellers' verses. A terrible pestilence has bloomed. They call it a great calamity. Whole cities emptied, corpses stacked higher than walls. His companions laugh. Come on, Marco, says a fleshy butcher, clapping his back. Every time you dock, you bring a story that bites. The east is either paved with gold or drowning in plague. Any new material? It's true, the merchant protests. They say the sickness walks with caravans. It's reached the Black Sea. Some of our ports are closing their trade. You cradle your cup and say nothing. The East. What a distant word. For you it's as far as the moon, a place of minstrels' marvels. A plague from there feels no more real than dragons or spells. You shrug and turn away. But the story, a seed no bigger than a mote, settles in the soil of your thoughts. In the days that follow, similar stories multiply. A pilgrim from Sicily, drinking at the tavern, speaks of Messina's harbour, a ship that sailed in with either dead men or men peppered with terrible black swellings, their eyes glazed, the air itself smelling spoiled. The tales contradict each other. Some say the illness rides on breath. Others promise that the devout will be spared. The wind brings a cool thread from far away, like a letter written in ash. You try to ignore it the way you ignore a small bruise of cloud on a clear horizon. Sky falling? Let the tall sort brace it. You look at your heel of black bread and think, this is real. The cloud is realer than you imagined, and faster too. Weeks later, a ship from the Mediterranean enters your harbour with a weary, unnatural silence. Normally, returning ships bring noise and coin, sailors flooding taverns, merchants barking orders at the docks. Not this time. This time the pier fills with a cold that bites the marrow. There are almost no living souls aboard. The few survivors gaze through you, weak as candle ends. Their skin blooms with the black swellings the rumours described. Officials act quickly, to their credit. They order quarantine. No one boards, no one disembarks. But it's too late. Like a drop of ink in clear water, something you cannot see has already leapt ashore. Maybe in the wool of a sailor who slipped past the line. Maybe in the fur of a rat that darted down a rope. At first, the changes are small. A stevedore near the quay burns with fever and dies within days. His wife follows, then the neighbour who sat with her. It spreads like a fire that makes no sound. Your first true fear isn't something you hear. It's the silence where noise should be. The marketplace goes quiet around the edges. Doors and shutters stay closed. Now and then, a chalked cross appears on a plank. You know what that means. The pest has entered here. 1 house a day, then 5. Then beyond counting, John the blacksmith shares a drink with you 1 week. The next, his forge is cold. Ask a neighbour, and the neighbour only shakes his head and tells you to move on quickly. A week more, John's whole family's gone. Death rushes so fast your mind staggers. Later scholars will argue numbers. 1/3, perhaps half of Europe dead within a handful of years. But you don't live inside numbers. You live inside absences, a string of names cut from your daily cloth. Bells, once steady as a heartbeat and comforting as bread, now toll without ceasing. Each peal is a departing soul. The sound grows hectic, not holy, a summons not to prayer, but to the grave. You begin to fear the bells themselves. People pass you with a new look, fear salted with suspicion. Neighbours are no longer neighbours. Friends are no longer friends. Anyone might carry the invisible foe. Scarves cover mouths. Conversations shrink to nods. War at least shows you an enemy you can strike. Not this. Your enemy is everywhere and nowhere. In a sneeze, in a coin, in the very breath you draw. The rules of the world seem to pause. No, to shiver and slip. You look at your family and feel not only terror of death, but doubt in the entire order of things. Scholars will later name the wound that opens in survivors' minds, a trauma that never quite closes. For now, you simply bleed inside it. Where did it start? Messina first, or a dozen ports at once? Learned men will quarrel over multiple ignition points. You don't care. It's here. Panic spreads. But what's worse than panic is not knowing. You crave an explanation, and soon you get one. Your neighbour's wife falls ill. Through the window you glimpse her, flushed and shivering, words unmoored. The neighbour, a patient carpenter, paces helplessly. Next day black, egg-sized swellings rise at her neck and groin. The rumour's kernels are real. He sells what he can and hires the most learned physician in town. The doctor arrives dignified, careful not to come too close. He questions the husband and clears his throat. In a voice that brooks no doubt, he explains the official cause. Bad air. Miasma. The carpenter blinks. Bad air, the doctor says again. Unseen, corrupt vapour. It may seep from fissures after earthquakes, or from baleful star alignments, or rot rising off marshes. The polluted air surrounds us. Your wife inhaled it and sickened. The logic feels educated and plausible. After all, the town truly smells worse now. A heavy, fetid blend that clings to beard and cloth. Perhaps the air is poisoned. Then the doctor lifts the curtain on a deeper theory. The 4 humours: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. Health is balance. Disease is too much or too little of one. This pestilence, he says, implies putrid blood, humours corrupted by miasma. The theory, old as Galen, rules medicine. To doubt it is to doubt daylight. Not everyone is convinced. Some who have sailed or soldiered quietly say the illness passes from person to person. Avoid the sick, their rooms, their cups. The idea of contagion is fringe, almost heresy in certain places. You stand between 2 maps of the world, learned air and street-taught touch. Which to believe? The split thinking leads to split responses. Under the sign of bad air and imbalanced humours, a great theatre of treatments rises, tragic and inventive and wrong. First prescription, bloodletting. If the blood is bad, let it out and restore balance. The doctor produces a small knife and opens a vein into a brass bowl, or more often applies leeches, fat, black patient, to the dark buboes, letting them drink. When bleeding fails, new remedies bloom. Someone tries the capon cure. Pluck the rear of a live rooster bear and bind its warm, naked rump to a swelling, trusting life heat to draw out poison. If the bird dies, the cure worked. Bring another bird. Others mash snakes or pigeons and rub the hot paste over the tumours. Sympathetic magic in action. Fight poison with poison. Still others lance the swellings and pack them with poultices of human excrement, lily root and resin, then bind them tight. Revulsion disguised as medicine. If you're wealthy, you can chew emerald powder in wine, or pay dearly for powdered unicorn horn, which is likely goat in drag. All around, apothecaries advertise panaceas, grand universal theriacs with 70 ingredients, herbs, spices, opiates, animal bits, a cathedral of certainty bottled in syrup. You witness it all swallow the neighbour's coin and hope. After bleeding, after pigeons and precious dust, his wife exhales a final time one grey morning. Days later he follows. No miracle arrives, only the naked effort of human beings applying the rules they know to a world that has abruptly refused those rules. As deaths mount, a new figure appears at street corners. The plague doctor. From hat to shoe he is sealed. Waxed leather robe to the ankles, wide-brimmed hat, gloves, a long staff. Most striking of all is the beaked mask, glass eyes glittering. People part before him as if death himself strides there. Later historians will bicker over him too. The classic beaked kit most likely dates to the 17th century, long after your year. In your streets, the outfit may be rougher, less theatrical, but strange all the same. The purpose, in any case, is to fight miasma. Herbs and aromatics, rose petals, lavender, mint, camphor, sponges soaked in vinegar, are stuffed inside the beak, so air will be cleansed as it is breathed. The waxed leather keeps foul vapour out. The staff lifts blankets and points from a distance. Irony has its little smile. While the theory is wrong, the practice, sealed fabric and distance, helps. Fleas cannot bite through leather. Droplets meet a barrier. An accidental science. Do not expect too much from these doctors. The best flee early, with money and reputations to protect. Those who remain are often second-rate, or young and untested, or bold merchants of opportunities that should not be sold. They count the dead, witness last wills, act as clerks to dying neighbourhoods. They walk like crows along the city's rim. Coffins run out. Every remedy, from leeches to manure, fails and fails. Medicine feels like a suit of armour hammered out of paper. When reason frays, eyes lift. A different explanation thickens in the air like incense. In church, a priest trembles at the pulpit. This is not accident, he cries, nor bad air. It is God's anger, punishment for greed, lust, vanity, disobedience. The scourge is the lash that will drive us back to the fold. The message lands with terrible clarity. If it is God's wrath, then the prescription is known. Prayer, repentance, charity, penance. People sell goods and give alms, hoping mercy can be purchased with their surrender. Flagellant bands appear. Men bare to the waist, lashing their own backs until they gleam with blood, chanting as they wander through streets emptied of music. At the same time, a darker whisper coils through taverns and markets. This is not God. It's a plot. Someone has poisoned the wells. Suddenly, the enemy is not invisible, not divine. It has a face you can drag into the daylight. Fear converts to anger. Despair finds a target. The crowd's gaze turns toward the Jewish quarter. They have their own faith, their own tongues, their own rituals. Some are wealthy. In peace, you traded with them, borrowed from them. Now rumors harden. Jews worship demons. Jews cast spells. Jews poisoned the wells. Others add a poisonous proof. Fewer deaths there, people say. They must have an antidote. They must be the poisoners. There are reasons for the numbers. Ritual cleanliness, hand-washing, clustered housing with private wells. But no one wants reasons. Mobs gather with clubs and torches. Shops are smashed. People dragged out. Guards look away. You notice debtors among the loudest rioters and the local baron who pledged his lands to a Jewish financier, watching from horseback with cool satisfaction. You understand then the bone beneath the rumour's flesh. Terror wears a mask, but greed holds the strings. News at last arrives from Avignon, where the papacy sits. A papal bull is read aloud in the square. Clement VI himself condemns the persecution and refutes the well-poisoning charge with plain logic. Jews are dying too, and the plague rages even where no Jews live. For a breath the crowd wavers, but another order, unrolled quietly from a secular court, changes the wind. The Holy Roman Emperor declares that the property of Jews killed in riots will be forfeit to local authorities. Morality speaks, money shouts. Local lords choose the voice they prefer. You learn a lesson that feels like swallowing a stone. Safety depends less on the distant holiness of Avignon than on the appetites of the man who owns the ground beneath your feet. What can you do, small as a sparrow? Flee to the countryside? That is for families with carts and manors, and peasants bound to their lords cannot simply vanish. Lock yourself inside with stores of food and water, only if you have coin enough to eat without working. Some, in a logic that hurts to watch, seat themselves beside latrines, believing a stronger familiar stink will drive off the invisible bad air. Most of you remain between impossible choices, exposed and praying that the enemy's blind passage will miss your door. The first great wave breaks and recedes. You are alive. You unlatch your door and walk into a town half-turned ghost. Streets gape. Shops yawn with spider silk in their mouths. The market offers only silence. You pass the smithy. John's hammer will never ring again. The bakery smells of old damp flour. Unherded sheep wander through lanes as if they have inherited the city. In the fields outside town, weeds shoulder up. Last year's grain rotted where it stood. Too few hands to bring it in. On a hill, the skeleton of a half-built church leans into the wind, scaffolds grey and splitting. Once you hauled stone for it, and believed the walls would outlast your grandchildren. The work has stopped. Cathedrals and castles will never again rise in such thick profusion. New building will be squarer, sterner, more afraid. Defences built not against distant invaders, but against unrest at home. Structures crack. So do structures of the mind. Feudal duties, guild rules, church calendars, family obligations, frames that once held your life snugly, warp and loosen. Your lord may be gone. Your master may be dead. Your priest may have coughed himself into the ground. You have survived into a world with many holes in it. People respond in opposite ways. Some double down on penance, marching with the flagellants, convinced the last day is already cresting the hill. Others cram the taverns, singing until their voices break, gambling, grabbing at pleasure with a ferocity that looks like joy from a distance and grief up close. When death becomes so ordinary, life becomes either cheap or priceless. Which is it? You feel afloat between those poles. Then quietly, a new reality arrives. You are valuable, not because you inherited treasure, because you are a healthy body that can work. Craftsmen are halved, farmhands are scarce. A wool merchant seeks you out to mend his warehouse, twice your old wage. A fur dealer, hearing of that, offers you 2.5 and a hot noon meal besides. Once you begged masters for bread, now they bid for you. Labour learns the taste of bargaining. Across the land wages rise. Landlords and nobles panic. Their wealth was built on tight supply of coin and loose supply of people. The foundation trembles. The counter-attack is swift. In England, 1351, King Edward III, in concert with Parliament, nails a decree to the realm, the Statute of Labourers. Wages must return to pre-plague levels. No worker may demand more. No master may pay more. Idlers of working age must labour or face prison. The law crawls into detail. A mower's daily pay shall not exceed so many pence. A master carpenter this, a journeyman that. So much for a quarter of wheat. The numbers slosh over hope like cold water. A government attempts for the first time to draw a net over the entire labour market by statute. Strict enforcement bites for a time. Fines, jails, wages flatten. But resentment ferments, subversion sprout. Under the table, a little extra changes hands. A day stretches long and slow in quiet protest. Pressure builds underground until it finds a vent. In 1381, a peasant rising demands, among other things, that the statute be thrown on the fire. The push to hold the world in place does not stop at your purse. It reaches into your wardrobe. With work dear and coin a little freer, some of you buy what once only the upper ranks could touch. A better coat, a hat with a feather, soft leather soles. Clothing becomes a little flag of dignity. The elite see blurred lines and feel the earth slant. So sumptuary laws multiply. What each rank may wear and what it must not. Purple reserved for princes. Velvet allowed to knights' wives, but not their furs. Artisans' wives capped at cost limit, buckles without silver. In some towns, brothels marked by stripes or yellow, so order can tell itself a soothing story. It is about morality, thrift, they say, but also about trade policy, protecting local cloth from foreign luxuries, keeping coin in native looms. Enforcement is patchy and rich men treat fines as fabric surcharges, but the existence of the laws declares the fear plainly. The plague is an earthquake in the social bedrock. The old pillars hammer nails into the cracks and call it repair. Culture changes colour. On a cemetery wall you find a new mural. No Madonna, no Christ, no angels. Skeletons, grinning with an almost lively delight, lead the living in a chain of dance. Pope, emperor, knight, merchant, lady, scholar, peasant, beggar, child. The living look stiff, reluctant, afraid. The dead are nimble and cheerful. The dance macabre, the dance of death. It terrifies and, strangely, steadies. Memento mori, remember you will die. But there is also a levelling here sharper than any statute could bear. Death takes the Pope's hand and the ploughman's hand with identical grip. The law tells you you may not wear a prince's purple. The wall whispers that soon the prince can't either. Across Europe the theme spreads. Paintings, prints, sermons, plays. Some say the word macabre may trace to legends of the Maccabees. Others hint at Arabic roots drifting through Spain. Perhaps it was performed as living pageant before it was pigment, masked dancers processing through churchyards to music knocked together on bones. Whether pageant or paint, the message bites the same. Power and wealth are paper masks. The skull beneath loves neither more. Years unspool, you grow older. The pest never truly leaves. It returns in smaller bites, a ghost with habits. Yet the first great blow is past, and life, stubborn as a weed poking through stone, reasserts itself. On a hill, you look down at your town. It is familiar but reduced, blocks abandoned to grass, the valleys greener, quieter, fields turned to pasture or wood because there are too few hands to keep them tame. Inside churches, new tombs appear, effigies no longer peaceful as sleep, but twisted with the realism of pain. Some monuments become double-deckers. Top level the living lord in silks, bottom level his own cadaver, ribs and worms and truth. Piety changes too. For some, the church's helplessness during the plague loosens old obedience. Personal mystical devotions rise. Ideas labelled heresy creep at the edges. For others, terror deepens orthodoxy. Indulgence is purchased, private chapels endowed, strings pulled toward heaven. Public ritual continues, but prayer feels more intimate, a direct whisper, rather than a chorus led. You live among ghosts. Empty chairs at tables are part of the furniture now. On certain streets, you still, sometimes, see a familiar shape where no one stands. The fever is gone from the land, but the memory of the fever warms in your blood like a coal that refuses to darken. In Italy, in Florence and Venice, families that survived with coin intact, or fattened by new trade, do something unexpected with wealth. They sponsor painters and poets, scholars to recover old Greek and Roman mines. They commission portraits of people as people, landscapes that sing of light. A new gaze appears, less fixed on the next world, more curious about this one. Humanism. In art, another meditation blossoms. Vanitas. A beautiful youth regards a mirror. The reflection sometimes is a skull. In a corner sits an hourglass, a wilting flower, a fruit already browning, the grammar of impermanence. It is cousin to the dance of death, but quieter, more private, a sigh rather than a trumpet. Did the Black Death plant the seeds of this rebirth? Scholars take sides. Some insist the plague shattered old forms, redistributed wealth, lifted labour, and cleared ground for the new. Others argue the seeds were already sprouting, that the pest only warped the timetable. You don't know. You only know the world changed as if struck by a meteor. The castle of custom cracked open. That is frightening. Wind and rain where walls used to be, but through the breach, oddly, there is a view. Choice enters like light through a broken roof. Your journey is nearly done. You have walked through fear and noise and terrible quiet, through the logic of doctors and the logic of mobs, through law hammers and dancing bones and the slow return of bread baking. Numbers have become faces and faces, memories. The modern world beyond your window hushes a little. Your eyelids grow heavy. Your breath becomes long and even. You float as if on the back of a slow river of time, under a sky peppered with calm stars. Kings and priests, doctors and debtors, skeletons and dancers all loosen and drift into soft fragments. They no longer trouble you. What remains is peace earned in the only way peace ever is, by passing through the storm and still being here to tell it. Good night.